We stand for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, go ahead and call the meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda, wait a second. Mr. Brian Shea is not with us in body, but he's on the phone. Are you with us, Brian?
He's muted.
Okay. Well, I think he's listening. The first thing on our agenda today is a consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, our first item is Christy Everett, election deputy, canvass of the Lewis Central election, and authorize the auditor to pay election costs. Christy, you are up.
Just have to sign for the abstracts. And the official canvas was held.
What were the election costs, you know?
It's like around 5,900.
Okay.
Not quite 6,000 is what it was. Yeah, I gave you the results. So it passed. Already handled it.
What was the voter turnout? 1%?
No, not even that. 0.02. There you go.
So it cost them $22 a vote.
Yep.
$22.10 a vote. Do you need a motion to approve? Yep. I'll make a motion to approve. I guess, for discussion, I'll just say that I think that it's, these are important issues, and it's tough when you see such low voter turnout. I don't know what we can do to fix it, but definitely think we need to. I mean, it's a matter of the school board and Lewis Central need to do a little more with it, but I think we do too, so.
Well, it wasn't like a school bond issue where it's heavily contested, but.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a good thing though. I mean, I think it's gonna definitely help the district. They needed to do it, it's just.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion with Christy?
No.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Just one.
Okay.
Do you want Brian to come in later and sign those?
No, I just need 3.
All right. Did you hear that, Brian?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, you don't need to bother coming in later to sign off on these.
Okay.
One more.
Thank you. Folks, thanks for helping.
A couple more no votes, there would have been about 60%.
That wasn't even close.
It was 60, just barely over 60%, right?
No,
This year?
234 to 25.
Right.
234 for and 25 against?
Yeah, I thought they,
It's like 90%.
Yeah.
is it the ones that vote or the eligible voters?
Oh.
So I thought it said
I
in the
think it's
paper it was just barely over 60%, I thought.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I don't see what he's saying, but that's okay.
Well, if you look at like the pool of all eligible voters in that district, and with these numbers,
Oh.
there have been more no votes, then technically you would have been over your percentage. You wouldn't have hit 60% of the yes.
That's okay, we'll figure out the math later. Next up,
Talking to my wife.
on our agenda, we have Matt Wyatt and Pam Colstrip. A second consideration of ordinance 2022-04, an ordinance to amend chapter 3.5 Animal Care and Control of the Potawatomi County, Iowa Code, and adopt ordinance 2022-04. Matt, Pam, you're up.
I brought with me today the 1981 version of the Potawatomi County zoning ordinance, because I wanted to kind of walk everybody through. I think some of the messaging around this has gotten a little twisted, that we're enforcing new rules onto the county. This is actually a relaxation of the zoning ordinance as it is currently written. In 1981, the R3 district was established, and within that parameters, having chickens was not an allowable use in the R3 district. And the R3 district actually went as far as to say that gardening and private greenhouses, not to a scale that would be obnoxious and adjacent to lots because of noise, odor, or dust. So in 1981, you can see how far our ordinances had gone to restrict the uses on people's private property. We would have been out there policing people's gardens, their size. The minute a neighbor called in and said, hey, they got too many tomato plants, we would have been out there. What this translates into is, over the years, even through 2004, the major update, there was still no relaxation of private stables towards the raising of fowl in the R3 district, which is what we have brought before you with the urban chicken ordinance. It would allow for people in the R3 district and other people in Potawatomi County who live on less than 1.5 acres of ground to obtain a permit to be able to have a chicken on their property. And it's not, as if the ordinance were to stay as of right now, and you all have seen the neighbor disputes that they end up calling the county over. The minute one of their neighbors calls in and says, hey, they have chickens out there, then animal control has to go out and come up with a plan with that property owner to remove the chickens from that property. This gives an alternative to that. Those individuals and property owners would be able to come in and obtain the permit and be able to have 12 chickens on their property. And it has some criteria set forth out there for them. There's a short class through the Iowa State University Extension Office that they can obtain a little certificate just to make sure they know what they're getting into when they get those chickens. And then we'd be able to move forward. So I feel like this is the reasoning on why it was brought forth by our office and not a private citizen, is because as the citizens have called in over the years and said, hey, I want to get chickens in the R3 district, and we explained them to the situation to it. If a private citizen applies for a code change, that's a $450 fee. So they would pay a $450 fee to come in and apply for that code change. They would have to bring their own language for that code change. And then it goes to the Planning Commission or Board of Health, and then on to the Board of Supervisors, all those time periods. So to tell one individual who wanted to have the chickens, you got to pay this $450 fee to come into the board to do a code change. There wasn't many residents who were willing to take that step. And I mean, you could hear the frustration in their voices. We were trying to come up with a solution on how we could just bring it to the board. It was meant to be done, pre-pandemic things. As pandemic went on, we didn't really have time to do it. So coming out of it, this is where we submitted it to the Board of Supervisors. I feel like it's a good way to introduce these urban chickens into those neighborhoods that for the past, since their establishment in the 1950s, 1960s, it wasn't an allowable use to have an urban chicken in there. And it gives them a path forward to be able to have those things, whether it's for the eggs or the companionship or the butcher possibilities, either one of them. I mean, it's just another way that people can locally source their own food. I think it's becoming a hotter topic as we move forward. Around the Crescent area, there's a big organic food movement in that area, has been for years. And it's just spreading down through.
Matt, is this where we talk about the fee?
Not yet, Brian.
We allow public comment during the ordinance.
We had public comment on this last week. gonna allow someone to, if somebody's here to speak, doesn't bother me any.
Well, I think there are people here that want to speak on it. So make sure we allow for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not removing anything today.
Sure, come on up. Yeah, state your name and address for the record.
Speak slowly.
I'm Jim Cook, 310 Timber Drive in Council Bluffs, and this is my wife Tana. And for the past, better part of a decade, we've been raising chickens, and our son, back at the time, studied up, got everything figured out, takes great care of them, designed and built his own coop. It's a fantastic operation, very proud of all the work and effort that he's put into that. We're here because this is not about chickens, it's about government overreach. Granted, the ordinance has been in place since 1982 or whatever it was stated. That doesn't mean that it is necessary. I mean, we should have the freedom to operate our private property in the way that, you know, we intend. That's obviously not going to be a nuisance to other people.
Jim, can I stop you there
Sure.
for a second? Currently, our ordinance doesn't allow that to happen. We are putting in place an ordinance that does allow that to happen.
Okay, so let me continue. So back in the July 19th meeting, Mr. Wickman, you asked, is there really a need for this? And
What was that?
back in July 19th, and it was quoted in Perel, you said, is there really a need for this?
Okay, I'll
And Mr. Wyant said, there's a definite need. We get calls every week. And Mr. Wyant noted that it is complaint driven. It comes down to noise and manure. So last week at the September 13th meeting, Mr. Wyant said that this changing of the ordinance is due to them, being the department, getting calls each week from people wanting to put a chicken coop up in their backyard. So that's
So it changed from noise
completely
to wanting.
noise and
We're like,
smell
so which is it?
to people wanting it. So as soon as I heard that, I thought, oh, here we go, it's a funding stream. There's so many people calling every week, they figure if there's this much interest, let's tax them.
One thing, we moved here from Seattle 20 years ago. We wanted to have more freedom. If this goes through, even as it is now, we're gonna have less freedom than Omaha. Omaha, you apply for a permit or application, it's free, so they don't attach. So, just so you know, Potawatomi County will be less free than Omaha.
And regarding
And we've never had a complaint, and we have Democrat neighbors,
actually, the people come by with their kids and stop and they want to see the chickens.
It should be driven by if there's a complaint, go to those people, don't take the freedom away. It's just like COVID, it's like, if you're afraid of everything, you go live in your basement, but let us be, okay? We've never had a complaint. Go police the people that are not cleaning their coops or whatever, but let the free people, there are plenty of places in this county to live if you don't want any animals around you, and you go live with an HOA, live in a gated community, live in Forest Glen. If you don't want any garden and you don't want any chickens, there are places for those people to live.
Okay.
Let there be a place for people
And
that want
Mr. Wyant mentioned that there's it's a huge process to get a code change, $450 and all that. That just shows right there that we are living under a huge bureaucracy. It's the unelected fourth branch of government. We're looking to you guys to represent us.
Yeah, not the
And we
bureaucrat.
brought our children because we want them to see you.
And they could
vote.
teach the class, by the way. So we
Absolutely.
should not be having to take a class because they could teach it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we don't want inspections. Thank you.
Mary, come on up.
Name and address.
Mary Stanley, 23996 Dogwood Road, Council Bluffs, Iowa, 51503. And I'm here to address pretty much what they said. We hired you guys, we hired you to represent us making informed choices that would never go against our inalienable rights. Your choices show that no one on this board has done their own research. The comprehensive 2030 packet you follow is the same as the United Nations Agenda 21 plan. The Godfather document of which sustainable development, smart growth, eminent domain, wrongful use of environmental concerns fall under. The United Nations goes after three things: land, education, and population control. Council Bluffs handed over every middle school to them. They are UNESCO schools, or you can call them IB schools, and they cannot teach the United Nations or the United States Constitution. Redevelopment is just another nice word for wrongful use of eminent domain. I was told the R in the R1, R2, and so on stand for residential. Are you sure it doesn't stand for restrictions? Because they are restricting our freedoms on our own property. And that is a bunch of baloney. Anyway, the Democrats always referring to a book called Rules for Radicals. You all have an R by your name. Does it stand for Republican or a rhino?
Okay,
It is
Mary-
obvious
Mary,
that you.
hold on.
What?
You're getting way off topic
No,
here.
I'm not. This all has to do with our rights on our own property. They want you to, why are you restricting our rights? That's what this is all about rights, right here. I'm not getting off of it.
Okay.
No.
We had a public hearing on this last week.
On Agenda 21, you had a public hearing? I didn't see anything.
What do you mean, Agenda 21?
So you don't even know what it is, and you're following it. The packet is a
Okay.
20-30 packet, and you don't even know what you're following. That's what I'm addressing.
Okay,
Okay.
52, I think.
that's okay, Mary, we're gonna move on. I
I'm gonna
appreciate-
finish my paper. I mean, I only got a few more sentences here. You wanna know, what our concerns are, don't you? We pay your salary, or don't we? You work for us, don't you? Are you sure it doesn't stand for restrictions? Because our rights are being restricted and our freedoms on our own property. And that is a bunch of baloney. The Democrats always are referring to the Rules of Radicals, the book. You have an R by your name. Are you a Republican? Are you gonna stand up, be a Republican or a rhino? And it's obvious that the Board of Supervisors, the Board of Adjustments, the Zoning Board, Animal Control, and the Board of Health all follow the recommendations from the Planning Director. Why do we need all these departments? I talked with 3 other counties and found out they voted in on their Board of Supervisors and they got rid of the zoning department. Now they live in the city or the county and they have freedom to do what they want on their own land. Both, the Board of Health has to go. We don't need people that listen to the Planning Director what should be done. No one on that board did their own research for the mask, and you, the board, took their recommendation and passed a mandate, which, by the way, is unconstitutional. The people and the school kids suffer because of your stupidity. The planning director
Mary,
said the
Mary,
research they
you're
did
starting
was
to get
a
into the insult
2-page
part of
paper,
things.
and the
Mr. Wilbur,
CDC and the
can we-
WHO,
Ms.
and that's
Stanley,
what
you're
they
gonna have
did.
to stop or you're gonna get removed by the sheriff, okay?
The sheriff has,
we're
it's
not
my
gonna have
rights
you
to
insult. I'm
talk.
telling you, we're not gonna have you
The sheriff needs to
insulted.
learn that we're the ones that are, okay, arrest me for telling the truth, go ahead. You guys gotta grow up or get voted out.
Ma'am, just in the future, board, when we have public hearings, that's the time for public comment. I appreciate where you're at when you want to do this. That's why we have public hearings at that time, so that we don't end up with these off-agenda
Yeah, I
commentaries.
was just trying to,
I appreciate it.
take care of Supervisor Schultz. He said he wasn't moving anything forward if they didn't get a chance to speak. So I give him that.
I just wanted
I made
to
a
just,
mistake.
from a legal standpoint, I'm just wanting to make sure I'm clear. Right now, as we sit here today, chickens in R3 are illegal anywhere, right? So if someone is currently raising chickens, they're actually in violation of the law. You're looking at at passing an ordinance or amending your code to allow people in R3. So people that are raising chickens today have been violating the law for however long they've been doing it
In those districts.
in those districts. You're looking to expand the rights, right? Because as of right now, it's illegal everywhere.
That's correct.
Okay.
And the tax.
And expand the tax and expand the.
Inspection.
So we can just not have the stuff with it.
Okay,
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 22-04. Well, sorry, second consideration of the ordinance for discussion.
Second.
Okay, so I guess I just want to be real clear with this, is that everything that Matt just asked questions about and highlighted. Right now, it's not legal to have them in these districts, and I know of a handful of folks that have them that were unaware that they were in violation of the code. I asked the question even before, when I had chickens, I was almost curious if I was in violation when I had them, because I wasn't sure of my zoning. I think there's a big issue with that, that we do need to address along with this ordinance, is that we need to make it easily known what you're zoned. And I don't know that people are able to figure that out real easily. You go on potco.org, you start searching around, you try to find it, it's not like readily available. It says you're zoned R3 or R2 or whatever, so we need to figure that out. I think there are a lot of good people out there that are raising chickens that have zero issues, it's not been a problem whatsoever, probably ever will be. I have a lot of concern over the fee structure, and I mentioned that before, and I've talked about how I don't agree with the fee being any more than in one neighborhood, Wildwood, versus what it would be in Ferndale. They're virtually the same neighborhood. I grew up there. My family had the farmstead that was right there on McPherson before it became Ferndale. And I don't see how it would be any different to have chickens in one neighborhood versus the other, and I don't see why the fee should be any different than the other. Our cost of doing business there as a county would be no different than that of the city. So that was kind of my big concern with that.
You know, that your opportunity on the cost is coming up. I mean, you can address it now if you like.
I'm gonna address it now.
Okay.
So there are several things with this that I do think there is concern about. And I think it's a fair concern about whether or not this is something that we should be regulating or not. And I see the benefits on both sides. I feel like that there is a reason for it to regulate this particular ordinance because of the public health aspects of it. Just recently, we had bird flu in our county. It's a big concern. If we don't know where these chickens are, that could be an issue for everyone across our county. And so I think there's value to us having this ordinance for that reason alone. I think we need to be mindful of how we're doing it. We need to be extremely respectful, and I'm not saying we're not. I just think we need to be respectful of how we're doing these inspections. And I think we really need to consider when they're necessary and how they're conducted. So, I guess I'll leave it there.
I'm not sure, what we end up settling up on the inspection the one time when they originally come in,
That's correct.
and then after that, it's a complaint-driven type of inspection.
Correct.
Okay.
We did go and we pulled the city council pluses because there was multiple conversations about what the city council plus doing right now. And on inspection criteria for the city, there is an annual inspection each year on each one of those property owners. So again, it would be much like how, originally we had the neighbor approval letters in there. We pulled that piece of it out because there should be some benefit. You're in rural Pot County, shouldn't have to ask your neighbors for permission. So annual inspection piece of it is not there. It's just an initial inspection and then go from there. Unless there's a complaint, so.
Okay, any other questions for Matt?
What is the
For
fee rate?
Pam?
What fee rate have you proposed?
I've proposed $125, but that's item number 3. We don't get to the resolution until item number 3 on the schedule of fees.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Hauser, call the roll, please.
Chairman Wickman,
Aye.
Supervisors Bell,
Aye.
Groby. Nay. Schultz. Brian, Shay,
Yeah,
All right, next up, still Matt and Pam. This is second consideration of ordinance 2022-05, an ordinance to amend chapter 8 zoning ordinance of the Potawatomi County, Iowa Code and adopt ordinance 2022-05 into law. Matt, you're up.
So this is another coordinating piece with changes that were made in chapter 3.5 of the animal control ordinance. There were sections of the zoning ordinance that had originally where this parts on the private stables and keeping a fowl had been, and now that refers you to chapter 3.5 under the urban chicken piece of it. So it's just coordinating those two chapters together.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Brian, would you like to second that?
I'm still thinking on it.
Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. Moving on, we have Matt Wyatt and Pam Colstrip. Discussion decision to add urban chicken permit and urban chicken yearly renewal permit and sign resolution 63-2022 to amend the county code, chapter 1.5, schedule of fees. Matt, you're up.
So the amounts I have proposed that it'd be $125 fee and $75 renewal fees on this one. Each time we've talked about it, you as the board set the resolution for what these fees are. Haven't ever seen, really happy with that part of it. I try to look at this as a user-based piece of that. What does it cost the county to have this piece of it done? If animal control right now, I don't, this is not some huge revenue stream that's gonna come in. I think there's about $15,000 a year that comes in to support animal control on dog licensing. And then, there would be this piece of it here. So, if the board wanted to go with $75 that the city council bluffs is charging, I mean, it's well within your authority to do so.
I mean, I'd support it if you match the city. That's where I'm at on it. And I mean, if the board's willing to entertain that, and I'd be willing to go back and look at that last motion that died and second it, but I just want to guarantee that the fee is not. I don't agree with any fee, to be frank. I don't think there should be one at all. I think people are pretty good stewards of it. If they're not, we can have a complaint process in place that we can deal with it. And I think that's the route we should go. But if this is the only means to make it legal for folks to have them, then I'll go down this path, but I want to make sure that our fees are matching the city.
Match the city of Omaha.
0.
So how would that work, this process to start the first? I mean, there's 4 months left in this year. Are we not gonna charge them whatever fee for the 4 months and then charge them again in January?
It's just an annual permit, so if you get your permit in October, then October to October.
Wow, and then your renewal would be the same way?
I don't see why not.
Do we
I
send
mean,
notices or something, or how's that work?
we have in the past on other things sent notices out to people.
So, okay, so if I were to get chickens in October and I lived in an R3, you're basically saying that I'm good till next October and it's on me to make sure I go back in and renew my permit for the following year? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, we don't try to chase people down for that. I think the only thing we noted in there was, let's say you got chickens in October, right? You came in, you got your permit, you got your chickens. They die in June, or you get rid of them in June. Maybe June you decide you don't want chickens anymore, so you get rid of them. You come back in and you got your permit. I mean, you're not gonna get a refund for half the year
No, right.
on there.
Right.
So that's really kind of the only stipulation.
Yeah, we do that too with dog license, right? We're not
Right.
refunding dog. It's not like we put a license plate on it. Well, I guess you kind of do the dog, but. Like I said, I'd be in favor of matching what the city council plus does, just so we're fair and equitable with this, with our community. So I'll make the motion to approve the fee structure. Sorry, I'm gonna get the right language here. Okay. So I'll make the motion to approve resolution 63-2022 to establish a schedule of fees, and I'm gonna make a change that the fee mirror that of the city council laws, which I believe is $75.
Is that for the renewal also? The yearly, because there's two blanks there. One for the permit and 75 for the annual renewal. First page of the fee structure. First page is top, right at
I'd
the
be in
top.
favor of not having a renewal fee.
So is that your motion, $75 for the permit?
Yep.
And 0 for the renewal?
Yep. And at that point, you know, just to clarify this, it's gonna become a complaint-based issue at that point.
Matt, does the city charge a renewal fee?
Yes,
Is that, you know?
the same, 75.
Is there any other discussion for Matt or Pam on this particular item?
I just wanna make sure that I want there to be a pathway for folks to have it. I also want there to be a means to where the government does have a level of oversight from the public health perspective. I mean, we need to be mindful of that. If we get this bird flu coming through here again, that could be very problematic for our entire county. And it was kind of scary when it happened this past year, and it affected a backyard flock. And it was, luckily for us, it was out in a rural area, and it was not in an area where there were a lot of folks, you know, in like an R3 type district. So I see the need for this, I see the importance of it. I am concerned about creating fees for something that just, it's not that big of a deal to me. I've owned chickens. I mean, and I've said this before, I'm not a fan of them. I don't ever want to own them again. But, you know, it was nice. The kids loved them when we first got them, and we got the eggs. The eggs were great. And to me, as the guy taking care of them, there was never an ROI for me, and I never liked it. It was just a pain in the neck. And I got lucky that a mink came and took care of the problem for me. But I think there are a lot of folks that do enjoy having them. I think that they're respectful with it. And I think if we have the means with animal control to, you know, if they're not following what the guidance should be with how we should raise these things, you know, if there's an initial inspection on the coop, costs you $75, you get them, you take care of them, you have no problems, you're probably never gonna have to deal with the county again. But if they're not taking care of them and there is a problem, you're bugging your neighbors, the county's gonna show up. And if you're out of ordinance, then we're gonna deal with it. We have that process in place already, so I don't see why we need to continue charging a fee for it. So that's kind of where I'm at, and it's not to, I know there was a lot of time and work put into this to get to this point, and I really appreciate that, and this is my opinion, that's where I'm at. So.
Any other discussion with Matt or Pam? Mr. Hauser, call the roll,
Did
please.
we get a second? I missed it if we did. Mr. Cod did?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Let me find my little chart. Chairman Wickman.
Nay.
Supervisors Bell, Groby,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Mr. Shea.
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, if I could,
We'll move past that item, we
revisit that
put it
ordinance
back
now.
on the agenda for next week if we wanna readdress it. I'm moving on. Matt Wyant, Maria Seek, Public Health, and Planning, Chris Wood with WIC. Update to the board on the regionalization of public health services by the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services. Matt, you're up. Matt, Maria, and Chris.
Chris. We wanted to make sure that we got in front of the board just as an update to pieces that are really beyond our control from what's happening with the state right now. And the realignment process is what they're referring to it as, Department of Health and Human Services and Iowa Department of Public Health. Those two entities are combining. And at the same time, you're seeing regionalization of different programs. We currently have the STI program, that is a regional program. We cover several counties with it. We also have our preparedness piece of it. It's a regionalized piece of it. It goes over several counties. And what other program? I don't know if that was.
So, yeah, we have a couple of different programs that we work through. It kind of comes through the grants through a competitive process. Some of the grants, the state reaches out to us because nobody else has applied and says, will you please pick up this regional area? The immunization program isn't really designed as a regional grant, but we have been working on that through the Preparedness Coalition and through COVID, just to get that vaccine out to the other counties by supplying other counties with vaccine that their health departments weren't able to do. We've picked up Mills County vaccine for children. They let that go, I think, the year before last year, and so they're sending all of their children up to us to get vaccinated. With the Preparedness Coalition, another piece of that. So the Preparedness Coalition is a 12-county area, and I have a couple of maps on that location, but it's how we all work together as a regional for Southwest Iowa to reach out and get that preparedness for our communities and our populations in case of another pandemic event. The IDPH did place an ultra-cold freezer in Potawatomi County for the region, and so you see a lot of those pieces coming back to Potawatomi County for that. We're also a part of the City Readiness Initiative, which is a piece of that preparedness that is Harrison Mills and Potawatomi. And we are the regional hub in case any strategic national stockpile pieces, vaccines, anything like that comes out.
But as early as back as 2017, when Marie and I went through the Iowa Department of Public Health strategic plan, was a regionalization process set forth for public health, and that's public health departments. What they wanted to see was, 5 to 6 health departments across the state that managed over a certain area, a number of different counties in that. And so when the previous director of Iowa Department of Public Health left, Gerd, and then they brought in Kelly Garcia to look over the department, she started that realignment process, bringing everybody in. The DHS folks saw it as a takeover from public health folks. Public health folks saw it as a takeover from the DHS folks, but in the end, it's bringing that agency together to better serve the state residents on there. The funding streams hadn't changed yet at that point in time. Chris reached out to us, it was probably 3 years ago or originally, when they started changing Chris's funding stream for the WIC program. And then this last time through was where they came back and they regionalized some of the WIC activities that are going on. So, and I can let Chris tell you a little bit about how she's been handling the regionalization of WIC.
Yeah, so they have
for the WIC as well as the like Title V maternal child health, iSmiles programs. They have gone to a collaborative service area, so a regionalization of all of those programs. Now there are 15 regional areas for both of those, and they match, so, which is unusual. So with RFP 2023, which starts October 1st of this year, WIC has a collaborative service area number 3 through Pottawatomie County, which covers Cass, Harrison, Mills, Monona, Pottawatomie, and Shelby counties. And so we are the grantee for that 6-county area. And then the Title V program also follows that same collaborative service area.
Yeah.
Title V and Title X.
And not all of those grant applications have yet to be awarded, so they're working on some extension.
So what Chris has tried to do, she went out and reached out to all their different boards of health, got herself in front of all of them, and then he tried to subcontract out to some staff that's already in place, if they will, keep doing the job.
As of this is a fluid situation, obviously. So when we entered into the grant writing procedures or planning process, which grants were due in April, so that's how far we were making these negotiations, probably in January, February. So at that point, West Central Community Action had 2 full-time dietitians and a support staff person, was willing to keep on the 5 rural counties they've been serving under a subcontract from Pottawatomie County. As of last Tuesday, they now have 0 dietitians and 1 support staff person, so we will not be initiating the subcontract with them. And we will, the plan is to absorb their full-time support staff person, and she will be retained in Harlan to support those 5 counties. And then hopefully working with public health, we can get an RN on staff that can cover those 9 counties. And then we are advertising for a part-time dietitian to cover those 9 rural counties as well, or 5 counties, 9 clinic days is what I'm trying to cover. So this is gonna work out really well for public health because we recently picked up the Title X contract with the state for the same service area, and that RN is gonna provide that support for those locations.
So an RN can service 9 counties?
Not 9, I'm sorry, it was 9 clinic days. Yeah, it's the 5 rural counties, 9 clinic days.
And a part-time dietitian for?
Those 9 clinic days as well.
What was their numbers like prior to this change?
Participation numbers?
Yeah. Or clients,
Probably about 700. Pottawatomie County, out of the 6-county area, we're serving in Pottawatomie County about 70% of that population.
That's what makes it so important as these regionalization opportunities come up, that we make sure that we maintain to be that hub of Southwest Iowa. We have been in that position before, where another county will get it, we'll get those funds using our population base as the majority of the funding that they're receiving, and then we never get the benefit of those funds to our residents. I mean, they'll do some work in your county, but they never do what they should be based on our level of population. And with us being that cornerstone of Southwest Iowa population base wise, anytime those funding opportunities come open for that regionalization, we try to make sure that we have a strong application ready to go to get those services brought here. And then we'll do the outreach into the other counties and maintain the level of services, if not even I guarantee you with Chris taking over the WIC program in those other counties, those other areas will probably see an increase in usage just based on her knowledge behind it compared to what they had there previously. The outreach efforts, all of those things improve, and you start seeing a greater participation rate in those other areas.
And is that all related to income for the participants?
It is WIC is an income-based program, so
These other ones are also then?
the maternal child health, the Title V, yeah, those are income-based programs as well.
But I think we are ready. We'll be seeing an increase in clinic days that we're serving the 5-county rural area when we start October 1st.
But I just want to make sure that the state is being real clear, because I don't know that they've communicated all down enough through the elected officials group. You know, they were pretty bold when they came down to ISAC this time around and said, hey, listen, we are looking to regionalize the public health departments. That we're passing that information along to you as the elected body as much as we can to say that this is what is coming down the pipe to us in public health, so.
So is there physical locations that are able to be used in each one of those counties for these services then?
We have agreements with, they vary from county to county. So like, for instance, in Harrison County, it's they have a really nice community building there, and that's where we hold our clinics in Logan. Mills County, it's the Methodist Church. So it varies from county to county where the actual clinic setting is.
And we'll go down to Mills County to their public health department down there and work out of there. We go down to Union County to the college. A couple other areas we're out just right into the community. So, I mean, it does vary quite a bit when you get around to these other counties where they're used to having people set up, the new partnerships you can form, whatever the case may be, to give yourself a spot for the day.
And we're still working very well with West Central Community Action right now. So we're planning to they have a really nice clinic that they built on to their central office there. So we're still planning to use that location. We're even going, for the family's sake, we're gonna go ahead and keep that phone number that they have. They have an 800 number, and we'll just have them bill us for it for now. And, like I said, this is pretty fluid right now, so as things change, we may change a few things, but we want it to be as seamless for the families as we can.
But you as the board, you may see, different of these job postings that go out. I just wanted to make you all aware of those things, because you'll see each program, they'll grow and then retract a little bit, grow and retract, until these programs settle down from the state. So, because a lot of these sometimes what they've done with those regionalizations is they say, hey, here's 5 counties, and then they'll call you back up a year later and say, well, can we give you 3 more? And then, so it'll just kind of keep flexing.
So those employees are, whose employees? They're ours or whose are they?
We try to partner with people as much as we can from other health departments right now.
So
But our employees, if it's not subcontracted out, then it would be our employees going out to do the work.
So the 2 positions, did you say an RN and then a part-time dietitian?
And a full-time support staff for that 5-county area.
So those are the 3 openings right now?
The support staff person, we have taken care of. So we're just, the RN that,
Is the support staff your employee then?
hopefully by October 1st, she will be.
Okay. And then these other 2 would be your employees?
The RN would be a shared position with public health.
Okay.
The dietitian would just be a WIC person.
Okay.
And then the only other thing that we are gonna inherit, 2 vehicles from West Central. So that we can get to clinics, not using our own personal cars.
That should be interesting.
Yeah.
Do you work at Arlen?
We will have, Robin is a support staff person we want to put on staff that has been working in that area, will remain in Harlan at this point. So, at least she'll take care of all the phone calls and scheduling and that kind of thing for families.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the reorganization pieces, though, with all these changes in the service areas for the grants, we've been watching all of them happen. But they've also updated Chapter 80 this year, which governs the local Board of Health, and it's basically the main funding source to assure that local boards of health are in place. They've changed how that was operating from direct services to population health to try to reach out and lift up the entire population as opposed to providing individual services through a systems level approach. Really, with that big change, because that one, it not only changes it to population health, but it ensures that the health departments have those pieces in place like strategic planning. And we've had to do the community health needs assessment, but how do you pull that information into your strategic planning on moving forward for the future? At the ISAC meeting, Kelly Garcia was there, and she said that she intends to put regionalization of public health on the 2024 legislative agenda, which this current one, the House filed 2578 for the agency merger. That one, right now they've got their final version of their table of organization, pieces like that, that's due to the state level October 1st for the 2023 legislative session, and it should be final July 1 of 2023. So we could see changes as soon as July 1, 2024. The piece they would have to put into place for that would be additional state code changes, Chapter 137, which governs the local boards of health. Right now, the local boards of health are local, city, or district. So they would have to change that piece of legislature, state code.
So we would have a regional board of health?
It's unseen right now. They have district board of health written in there where counties can join together and have district boards of health. But it could be, I would foresee it being much like Suzanne's region was originally set up.
How do the boards get put on? I mean, are they still appointed by?
Yes, they're
So
still,
many seats per county or something?
right.
Suzanne's is
Presumably.
set up with-
I'm not talking about how it's currently set up, but what it was previously set up when it first became that region. And they were still county employees.
Oh, the employees were, but the board was set up as an elected official from each county for the board.
So it would more than likely it would be like an appointed Board of Health member from each elected body. I'm sure that the department will still want to maintain, having a doctor on there, having an RN on there, because we have standing orders. It has to be a physician on there because they have standing orders that they have to sign for us. Having the nurses on there is a big help to our staff, and then we have a veterinarian on there right now as well. So there's pieces to it that we would really like to see maintained. And
We wouldn't lose seats though, would we? I mean, if we regionalize, would we still have 5 members or whatever, or would we lose that potential?
no, I think it would still be a 5 to 7 member deal.
I guess what I'm saying is like, will we still get to appoint the same 5 that we have and keep them in place?
Oh, I don't know if that would happen. No,
Yeah, that's something
that's yet
we're
to be seen.
just gonna have to watch as they start talking about it more.
You'll have several counties though that will push back on that part. Yeah.
On your behalf, with speaking with legislators or anything on this at all, or should we be doing anything to help you?
I stay in pretty good touch with the legislators to make sure, just from what they're hearing on their part of it, and I think they all fairly know our stance that we like to maintain the boards that we have. I'm not necessarily in favor of a forced regionalization. I think we're doing a really good job in Potawatomi County, and I would certainly like a few more years before it goes.
I think that's the tough part, is because the better job that we do as a county, the more attractive it seems to regionalize so that we can get that support from our county to handle it. I think that you see that in Veteran Affairs as well. I mean, you see folks from other counties coming here because they can get the service done really well. But I see what you're saying. We stand to lose some of what we have.
Yeah. Well, that's all we really had for you today. We just wanted to give you an update on those activities, not hold you over for too long on it, and just be prepared to hear things from the state legislators, and we'll keep you updated as we hear different things that come down through the meetings that we have with the department.
Okay. Any other questions, Matt and Maria? Matt, Maria, and Chris, thank you. Next up, we have Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Grounds, and Rich.
Kmiecek.
Thanks for helping me with that. And I think we have somebody from you with Optimized Systems as well.
Rick Harris, yes.
Discussion decision to approve and authorize the board to sign a proposal for an independent third-party commission on the courthouse project pertaining to HVAC upgrades. Jason Slack, you're up.
Well, we expect more from our buildings today than we ever have before. As our expectations have risen, so has the sophistication and complexity of our buildings and systems. What we want to do is have our systems run as intended, so we can achieve our goals as a county, and having a functional, efficient building. So I've asked Rick from Optimized Solutions to give us a true independent third-party quote to come in on the county's behalf in order to verify that our HVAC systems that are being installed, that have been installed and will be installed, I would like to get those commissioned by these guys. And what that is, it's a process of a checklist that they go through with all the subcontractors just to make sure that all of our systems are doing what they're supposed to.
So commissioning, I don't know if you guys are familiar with commissioning on the building level, but commissioning basically started back in the naval days when a ship was built, it would be commissioned. So basically everything would be tested because once you send that ship on the water, sure as heck better work. So commissioning is now pretty standard, I would say, in buildings because buildings, like Jason said, have gotten more complicated. I compare them to cars. I mean, a 60s truck, you pop the hood, if you're mechanically inclined, you can work on that all day long. Nowadays, pop the hood on the car, and unless you understand electronics and computers, very difficult. Buildings have evolved to that same level. And so what at Optimized Systems, we basically do third-party commissioning. So we have design engineers like myself that are licensed engineers, but we don't typically do design. We have controls people and mechanical maintenance people, but we don't physically go in and fix stuff. What we do is we're that independent third party, the eyes and ears that would basically act as the owner, for lack of a better term, through a project. So we look at the design drawings, make sure that the county's getting what they should be getting. As stuff's getting built, we do on-site inspections. Once it's installed, we physically test everything. So we will run everything through its paces. The heating cycle, the cooling cycles to make sure it's all working well. And then on the backside, we'll work with Jason and his staff and basically educate and train on everybody on how to operate this building moving forward. So commissioning is now required by the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code. It hasn't quite been adopted by Iowa yet. Nebraska's adopted it. So it's still a common practice. And so we also push for independent third parties. So because we don't do design, we don't do install, we've always stayed neutral. We don't care the brand of system, the type of controls, the type of building, who designed it. None of that matters to us. It's about making it work on the back end. So we basically, this is kind of what Optimized Systems, how it was founded. I worked at University of Nebraska Medical Center for a dozen years, basically doing this in-house. And then in 2014 started a company to just basically do these type of services.
Jason, as you mentioned, when the systems start to get more and more complicated and computerized, what's your plan to keep our building staff up to, let me rephrase that. What are you gonna do with your building staff to make sure they have the knowledge to maybe track down an issue and repair or replace it?
Right now, we work with our contractors. Contractors come in and educate us on how the system is supposed to work. As we've seen with our courthouse renovation that we just finished up on, with our HVAC systems, you have a manufacturer, you have a controls contractor, you have a mechanical contractor, and you have an engineer. Those four entities have to work with each other in order to get a final product done. So you work with those four people in order to educate your staff on how the system works, and that's basically what we have right now on how we're educating our staff. But with these guys, these would come in and show us how we can adjust parameters in the system, you know, what an economizer does, outside air dampers and things like that.
And we help fill those gaps to make sure that everybody's communicating in the process. And then, like I said, because at Optimize Systems, almost every one of our employees was an owner or worked or in Jason's similar position, we understand what the owner side of it needs to be. So we will work and kind of, as part of any project, a contractor's supposed to do training with the staff. A, we'll make sure that gets done, but then B, we do kind of enhanced level of training on really teaching Jason's staff what they need to know to operate this building. At the end of the day, there's still a component that might fail that you're not gonna understand every part of it, but then they'll know who to call and how to get that done, and they're just, like I said, it's a very complicated system compared to how it used to be, so it does require training. I don't wanna make it sound like it's impossible to run, because it's very doable, but just having that in-house where we actually sit down, we'll come a month later and then sit down with them again and say, hey, what'd you learn? How can we continue to help you through this process?
So once we got done with the courthouse renovation, we would sit down with our controls contractor. They would walk us through the computer, you know, how to adjust different things. Then we would sit down with the mechanical contractor separately, and he would show us how the air handler works. You know, so we're getting it from 3 or 4 different people are showing us, you know, how to do things, but we're unable to actually put it all together into one package, like what it's supposed to work as one system once it's all done. So this number for these guys, it encompasses all of our projects. It encompasses retro commissioning on our courthouse construction or courthouse renovation project and our addition, and our air handler replacement project, which there's a heat recovery chiller in there that's going to require quite a bit of.
Yeah, heat recovery chillers are complicated.
So.
Do you have education and training budget item in your budget?
I do.
So, help me understand, is this just for the duration of this project? Like, or is this an annual fee? Is this
So,
just one time?
So our proposal for this is a one-time fee for the project that pretty much just got done, the project that's under construction, and the project, it's 3 separate projects in our mind that are all gonna come together. So our fee is for all of this, and then on the back end, some training for Jason, and then essentially we're done. We do offer for clients, we have a lot of nonprofits that we do work for, and ongoing where we can help them maintain it year over year. But in the perfect world, our goal is to help educate, train the staff, and then you don't need us again unless you have a question.
But you would come back at the change of seasons?
Oh, absolutely, yes. If we're testing now on the cooling, we'll be there during the heating season as well. So, I mean, for the duration of this project, we've probably got, a good 16 months left, give or take, from start to finish. But yeah, we're here through the duration of construction and post that. But yes, Jason's exactly right. If construction ends in the dead of winter, we'll come back in the summer or vice versa.
So you said you do have this in your budget?
I do not have this in my budget. I did go out and get other bids. They're not apples to apples because Optimize is actually truly a third-party independent commissioning agent. I went out to Morrissey Engineering, got a bid for the exact same thing, and we were at $117,000 for their bid. ETI was slightly cheaper at 71, but neither one of those are truly independent third-party commissioners because ETI is the engineer that worked on our project. They would be using engineer controls who are also working on our project. We want people that are independent, that come in on our behalf to verify that these systems are working. And this is actually, the ROI on this is supposed to be right around 1 to 2 years. So many buildings that don't undergo the commissioning process wind up having problems that aren't discovered for a long time.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, how is a problem discovered? Well, you're hot or you're cold. But there would be systems that will be cooling down and heating up and you don't ever know the difference but through your energy bills.
I think that the only hard part for me on this whole project is, we went through this design, as we approved to make the changes to this building, build this one here. You know, our expectation at the time was that this stuff was gonna be designed and handled. Now, obviously, when we redid the basement, for example, we've got 911 center, a break room that has no HVAC in there at all.
Yep.
And so now we've got this beautiful break room that people aren't using because they're freezing cold in the wintertime.
And that's kind of what made me open my eyes to this commissioning. I'm like, why are we having these issues? What could I have done better?
Well, I'm not, this isn't on you, but I think where my mind's going here is that, is this gonna be something that we are now going to adopt as precedent? Are we gonna always, you know, contact a third party for this design phase? Are we always gonna have, you know, shy of $80,000 cost that goes on to this? I mean, for us, that's a penny and a half on our levy. You know, we don't have a lot of pennies left.
Right.
So just, I'm a little concerned there. I mean, I think this is a doable thing. I do see the need for it. I think it's important. But I just wanna make sure that I don't want to allow the people that are designing this, the people that we are trusting to get this done the right way, to have missteps and say, oh, that's all right, we got a third party that's gonna handle it for us. I don't want that to happen. So,
Well, these guys would hold them accountable.
yeah, for a cost.
Yep, true. But without them, I mean, I'm not able to go in there and look at the computer program and say, this wasn't programmed correctly. You know, I just don't have that,
No, I understand.
that knowledge.
Yeah, I don't think we expect you to either, so, in fairness.
Would you play a role in decommissioning if you started having issues 10, 15 years down the road? Decommissioning, if they're gonna commission this HVAC system, would they give you recommendations on repairing or replacing?
Yeah, we typically go in for clients that we have relationships with, and they might be having an issue, and we'll go in and evaluate a system, say, yep, this is, you past its useful life, you need to replace it, and or, nope, this is still good, you might need to do this, this, and this to get another 5 to 10 years. And that's another one of the things that statistically commissioning helps with, is extending life expectancy of equipment, because it's operated correctly, and people understand when they need to change filters and how often and all that.
So just, I want to back up to your opening statements. You know, you said that there's folks that have expectations. I mean, I think honestly the expectation is that we just have heating and air and that we're comfortable when we're working. I don't think that's an increased expectation. I just think it's something that we expect from the year.
Well, the energy efficiency is something that we don't, you know, that's actually mandated, you know, nowadays with new HVAC systems, so.
Sure. I mean, obviously you're here, you recommend us do this. I mean, I trust your judgment, so I mean, I'm willing to move this forward, so I'll make the motion to approve this contract. I'm not real clear on where the money should come from. Is that a gaming item, you think, or?
I think we should probably still use our urban renewal since it's still on the campus here.
Okay. If that's
I'll
available.
double check on this since there's a couple locations that are off, isn't there?
I guess.
No, it's all courthouse, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That should work then.
I'll go with that.
You said it's coming out of the
Urban renewal,
What was the price tag on that?
78,500, I think.
79.5.
Sorry.
Yep.
Try to get 1,000 out of you.
So, they'll be monitoring and working with ETI then, is that?
They'll be working with ETI, they'll be working with engineered controls, and they'll be working with Ray Martin, and also the manufacturers, yeah. Well, HGM, not so much probably, but more like the manufacturers of our equipment and their, you know, their specifications are met and things like that, so.
So when, we won't be able to get the results of their effectiveness until we're done with the project, right?
Right.
We really won't have, because we'll have a new baseline because we got new energy costs going there, so.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, I'll second it. Trust your judgment on this one, Jason.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion for Jason for
It's Rick and Rick, it's easier.
optimized systems.
No, I mean, you know, your comment about ROI, I mean, we're either gonna eat it now or we're gonna eat it on the back end. So I mean, if we do this wrong, it's not right, we're gonna have to spend the money to get it right. So if we can prevent it, I think this is helpful. But yeah, agree.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, you're still up. Discussion decision to approve and authorize the board to sign change order 5. It's all it is a contract adjustment for approved change orders. Jason, you're up.
This is just formally adding the approved change orders to the contract. So it's just a decision to sign the amended contract.
Motion approved.
So these are change orders we've already,
Yep.
discussed in the past. Okay. Second.
Okay, any other discussion for Jason on this one?
So, are they anticipating much more for change orders, do you know?
I know we had one customer, one change order that I requested, was to turn that treasurer's office, the north door, into a loading dock, which is basically just knocking down that half wall there. That's something we can do outside the scope of the contract as well, so, that's the one I know that's coming. We still have a couple possible material increases that could come through, but I haven't heard anything about it, so, we're just kinda hoping they go away.
Hadn't we originally planned on a loading dock down there for the treasurer's field?
That's what, yeah, but it's gonna be a change order because it wasn't drawn into the original documents.
We needed somebody optimizing that in the beginning for us, I guess. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, David Byer, discussion decision approval of quote from Microsoft 365 for a 3-year licensing contract. David, you're up.
Sure, thank you. So this is really a formality. We pay annually we pay monthly for our 365 licensing. This is just to simplify the next 3 years for budgeting purposes. It certainly is an increase, but every year was going to be an increase for sure. So this just locks us in for 3 years to make life a little simpler when it comes to budgeting. And I sent you a spreadsheet that you probably have in front of you. It lists the kinds of licenses that we have and the counts of each with a comparison of what we currently pay versus what we would pay in the new agreement. The agreement would start in January. I don't need a budget amendment or anything. This is just an approval for the 3-year to lock us in.
So moved.
I'll second.
Hey, David?
Yes.
What's the 517 user count for the backup?
So that's the 3 numbers above it all added together. So
Okay.
EOP, which is email only plan, G1 and G3, those are all different license levels of 365. Then we back all that up in the cloud to back up everyone's email, everyone's OneDrive, everyone's SharePoint.
What's the EOP is?
Email only, so you just get an email account, you don't get any Office products or anything like that.
23 people just have an email account, huh?
Correct.
Okay.
How do you evaluate that?
I'm sorry?
How are you evaluating who only has email and who has?
We work with the department heads on what they need to do their work.
So, I mean, we're going up, whatever here, $15,000. How, I mean, is that gonna be, so this will be 3 years that we stay at this rate?
We stay at that rate for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, it will probably jump.
What were we at before we had Microsoft 365?
So we spent specifically just for Office licenses, and it was, depending on the license level there, it was $300 to $400 per license per user, but it was one time. We bought it. But then every few years, you get a new version that comes out and you have to buy that
Yeah.
for those people. And then email, we had to pay the licensing for that. I don't have those numbers in front of me specifically what we spent, but it was fragmented because it was all different, all over the board. Different versions. What this does do, it is expensive, I acknowledge that. But what it does do is also makes it so we don't have to do upgrades anymore. We just have the latest version always. So it's a little bit less work on the staff. We have more tools than we've ever had before, like Teams and things of that nature that we use an awful lot for various communication tools. But the main reason that we did switch over to 365 was because there was an end of life for the current model. And we wanted to be ahead of that, not be forced.
Yeah, my only concern is that I don't know how we're evaluating who has everything and who has just email, you know? I'm just curious if we are confident in those numbers, I mean.
We started on the low, honestly, G3 is where most people should be at, honestly. That gets you all the Office products, email, Teams, basically the whole suite. And that is most of our staff. The G1 gets you all the products, but it's only web-based. So in other words, you can only access Microsoft Excel or Word from a browser. And that makes life difficult for those that have the full product. Sharing files is difficult. You know, I email you a file, you have to open a browser to then open the file. It's not obvious to some folks. So G3 is the right answer for most people. There are levels above that as well. We don't have any of those. There's G5 that gets you everything, more security, more whatever. But
So we have to go through this entity to get this?
we can go through many different entities, but the price is going to be essentially the same. They're just a reseller that sells the product.
Yeah, we can't go direct to Microsoft.
ThinkSpace is third party for
Correct.
Microsoft.
Correct.
So do you shop that around then?
I haven't, but the price is essentially going to be the same just about anywhere. They're just.
Well, it'd just be interesting to see if there's somebody in
If
Pot
there's other
County,
savings.
somebody in Pot County that provides that service and what.
Yeah, they're located in Harlan, so
Right.
Close but not in.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Call for the vote. Any other questions for David? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. David, you still up? This is a discussion decision to authorize the board to sign the Cox agreement for phone and internet service.
So this is our 5-year agreement with Cox is going to be up in February of next year. But because we are needing service at Crescent, Mount Crescent, I've been having conversations with them about getting service to that location. And they said that they could build that out for us. But let's talk about the 5-year agreement. And so we were able to get a new quote for everything, including Mount Crescent. They would run fiber to the lodge there. And they have communicated that they could do that in 90 days. So we are excited about that possibility. But these are the new numbers here for the courthouse, sheriff's office, and the Mount Crescent Hitchcock area. We will be treating Mount Crescent and Hitchcock as a single site. Cox would connect to that building there, but then we would have the two parks connected with a point-to-point connection. So this new service, 500 meg internet and phone service, would service both the parks. So that's a big win for us because we've always lacked quality service out at Hitchcock. Currently, we get internet service from Lumen, shot from downtown Omaha, up to Hitchcock via point-to-point. That would then become our backup service. That's only 100 meg. So
Like forever, or just until that, we contract with them too?
we should always have a second service, especially since we're supporting, I don't know how many people are expected to be at Mount Crescent, but we want to have quality service, and if Cox were to drop, which we don't expect, but there's never 100%
We're still
uptime.
out of the realm of Verizon right now, right? There's no.
Verizon is not very
Cell
good
service is not
at
there.
the Crescent area at all.
Right.
So
The other,
this is about, a little over $400 decrease a month. Is that a monthly number, right?
that's a monthly number, yes.
So the new agreement's gonna be $400 plus lower?
Correct. This is the new agreement that would start now. This would supersede the current agreement that ends in February. This would just take over that agreement. So we would start the savings now. And we wouldn't be charged at all for the Mount Crescent until they build that. So if that might be 3 months from now.
Okay. You just, I don't know, with Cox, you just gotta, but you can do a 5-year deal, then, but maybe you can go back and negotiate every other year, you just gotta keep your eye on it.
Yeah.
We have done that historically. We've gone back to them on certainly the internet services, and we've had increases in bandwidth for the same price. They won't lower the number, but they'll give you better bandwidth. So that has happened multiple times,
They
actually.
don't usually come forward, you gotta go to them.
Correct, agreed.
So this is in your budget, and it's a savings.
Yeah, this is not a money ask at all. This is just are you okay with 5 years, again, with Cox, while adding Mount Crescent to the mix?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any other discussion for David?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, we have Dixie Johnson.
Thanks, David.
This is discussion, decision to allow or disallow the applications made to the assessors for homestead allowance, military allowance, disabled veteran homestead allowance, and family farm. There were, 9 of them that were disallowed?
Correct.
That was in your packet. Homestead were address changes, title issues. Military was, one of them wasn't a resident, and DD 214, there was some discrepancy on the DD 214. Family farm, it's not classified as ag, so.
That discrepancy with the DD 214, you worked, I'm assuming we worked with the Veterans Office on that?
The assessor's office was working with the individual, and yes, they were working, and they'll reapply if they can get that taken care of.
Yeah, I think I see the issue, so, okay. Motion approved.
Sorry.
Any other discussion for Dixie? Motion and second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next up, we have discussion with the city of Underwood, Trainer, McClellan, and Oakland. First off, I want to apologize, I should have had you earlier on the agenda. You were the guinea pigs. I'll make sure when our other towns come in, they'll be a little bit further up on the agenda.
Well, good for them.
I mean, unless you really enjoyed sitting here for that, so.
I thoroughly enjoyed the chicken discussion, so.
It sounds like a wonderful plan, because it sounds very familiar to something I came up with, so.
Do you have something similar to that?
It is our plan, pretty much, for the city, yep.
Well,
Or 6, but the rest is.
that's the whole town.
Last time I had a chicken discussion, it was about 20 years ago, and there was a person in a chicken costume that came in, and we also had the attorney who threatened to boot him out, and very similar.
Okay, let's get back to this. What the board is doing, we're bringing in all of our small towns to have a discussion on some of your wants and needs that might not have been covered in the discussion with McClure. If there's anything that the towns would like to present to the board and can have us consider for funding. And I'm just gonna go right down my list and we'll start with Underwood with Denny Ardsley.
Why pick on me?
You guys, I don't know, they put you
Okay. Some ideas, we need some help with probably the trail, bike trail maybe going through next year. Hopefully, this will get closer to Underwood.
Do you have a number for that, Dennis?
Number?
Cost.
No.
Okay.
I think last one, I thought it was 500,000, back maybe 8-10 years ago. So.
That was the expectation from the city of Underwood to come up with.
With our engineer. And I don't know what the, you know, you guys are putting out for bids on that maybe that'll be a lot lower and stuff like that, so.
Brian, do you remember, I feel like we have that bid.
I think he was pretty close. It's been quite a while since we've had a bid for Underwood, but I think it was close to $500,000.
Okay.
And, one of the council members brought up here a while back is a racquetball paddle thing. I guess they're real popular around in different.
Pickleball.
Supposedly you can't hardly get a reservation in Council Bluffs or Omaha for them.
Was that the pickleball?
Pickleball, yes.
Do you have a cost for that, Dennis?
No idea. And then,
Is there tennis courts around there already anywhere?
we have one there, on the south side of Umba.
Okay.
And there was some talk that buying that and design that, they play basketball on it all the time too. The kids, especially like on a Sunday afternoon, they get together. Then, where the old animal control, lot that we bought back.
Oh, God.
We, tore that all down and we thought of maybe making it a little bit of a park, like putting bike racks and stuff like that in, and benches and stuff, and it'd probably be real useful after the bike trail goes through, where our restaurant there, Garcia's, would be a popular place for the bikers. So. And put benches in there, so that's basically what we talked about here a week ago or so.
Okay. Did you have a cost for the park, Dennis?
Now, I know they put some benches in there, and, or a couple years ago, the Friends of Underwood bought them. And I'm thinking they was up to about $250 to $400 a piece. Just a bench that's coated with the black vinyl stuff. And then the bike racks, I would imagine they're in the same area somewhere in there.
Mitch, you got that?
Yep, noted.
I want to make a comment about Advanced Southwest Iowa. I talked to Shalimar the other day, and she was asking about this. She said that we should work in hand with her and multiply that money out through grants or something. So just be aware of that, please.
Thanks, Dennis.
Do you guys have a amount that you're going to dispense to the cities, or?
Well, the board discussed, the possibility of about 1.5 million dispersed between the 13, small towns outside of Council Bluffs.
Okay.
I think the key there is like, we don't know what we don't know.
Well,
So if
that's
there's projects you got that we might be able to partner with, and we may not necessarily use ARPA to do that, we could use gaming, we could use, other funds, we just need to know what you have.
Yeah, and as we go along, maybe the council will think of other ideas and stuff too. I mean, this isn't all set in gold. Probably the number one, it's probably the bike trail though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they pretty confident on where that's gonna go through the community at then? Is it pretty well set?
We set it there, I don't know, 8 years ago maybe, Brian?
Yeah.
And basically, it's gonna be along this, my understanding, we're just gonna do it up to the property, or property line of the people, not on the highway.
On,
So you got the ditch, and then the people have a property line, and there'll be a spot in between the property line and the bike ride trail.
right away, and that would be on the.
It's going to be the east side of the
east
road.
side of the road, right? And go all the way through town, right along there.
Yes.
Okay.
I personally like to have it kind of curved down through some land we got, but there are maintenance areas down there, and so I don't think it'll work.
Is the right of way pretty wide through there, isn't it?
In places it is.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's 80 feet, wasn't it?
What?
Was it 80 feet?
Could be. It gets real tight up there after Main Street going north. You got the apartments there, and the fire station, and the school, old school used to be there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next on my list is the city trainer. Alan, are you taking this, or you turning it over to Michael?
Hey, Melvin, will you put the projector on and put it on my TV?
Oh, I thought I had it on.
No, you never did.
I said, are you gonna handle,
Wants to know if you're taking charge, Alan. You want?
or do you wanna turn it over to Michael?
You can do it, I can answer some questions, you got some questions for me.
It's on.
I think you should need to change the input to presenter PC, maybe?
I did.
Well, just in case the technology fails, I wanted to make sure that you have the physical copy to take a look at. And, you know, more of this is just FYI and kind of give you an idea. If you remember,
Thank you, Michael.
it was about a little over a year ago, more than a year ago in July. I think I got an extra one here for you.
Okay, thanks. It's not coming up, Mitch. I don't know why.
That we approached you with a couple of projects. And of course, the way the process worked, you then went out after that in July with Advanced Southwest Iowa, as well as Iowa West and a couple of the other entities that were involved, Goldenrod, and went through that year-long process, which came to a head about a month ago. They brought back their recommendations, which, you know, we're very appreciative. The number one priority project for Trainer is the wastewater treatment facility, which is going forward to, right now we're at the 30% engineering, and we're going forward with that whole process. However, a year ago, we came to you with what was called the Heartland Road Connection. And this had to do with the road that we're looking at trying to build from the new Heartland subdivision, which was just put in and almost completed now, and somehow connecting that to Highway 92. And there were several reasons for it. There's cosmetics involved. There's also safety concerns. There's a whole lot of things that we feel that is a very necessary project for us to continue with. If you watch the news, and Alan can elaborate with me on this, is we had a lightning strike, a pole right on Highway 92, and because of the congestion and the way the trainer is set up on the highway, it literally shut it down. Of course, the lightning strike was right at school getting out, so that compounded the issue, and we actually could see where this could be a very a problematic thing for Trainer. And one of the ways this Heartland Connection Road would allow more access in and out of not only the subdivision, but also to Highway 92 and around the area that we're referring to as the T, or the Vision Trainer Grounds, where there's a baseball field now in place that was dedicated last year, as well as soccer fields and several things that are coming into play within the next 6 months to a year, including splash pads, and there's talk about pickleball courts, but it's one step at a time. All of these things are incremental. So coming back to you, I think was more or less just when you asked the small towns outside of the ARPA range, those infrastructure things like the wastewater treatment, what were things that the towns were doing? In this case, we elevated this Heartland Connection Road is one of the things that we are doing that's outside of that ARPA that didn't want to mess with road construction for whatever reason. I mean, I kind of fought that on the state and federal level, but it doesn't really matter. They were stuck in their thinking. They did not want to give money from the ARPA funds for road construction. So I know there are others that are getting by with it, but for Iowa and for us, that was not the case. So they stuck with the water, sewer, and that's where you got the recommendations from McClure and come forward. So if this pops up, there was just a couple things I wanted to show you. We have several things that, like Dennis said, I mean, we have a East Park that we're looking at, shelter, and we have numbers for these too, Tim. I mean, we're looking at putting in a new shelter at about $75,000 on the south end of East Park. We're doing several other projects of that nature too. So I can stop there, and while he's getting ready, if you want, Alan, if you want to pipe in something that I missed, and as we're talking.
One second. Is your plugged in here, registered on the HDMI?
That shelter you spoke about, Michael, what is that? What is that for?
Currently, East Park has a shelter on the north side, and we had discussed a year ago, and actually a couple of years ago, had applied with Iowa West Foundation to do some improvements in the East Park. So one of those was to take that old shelter out. It really wasn't that bad of shape, but when I came in, I took a look at it, and so instead what we're doing is we're going to keep that shelter on the north side of East, we get these directions, but it's called East Park. On the north side of that park, we're going to keep it in, but on the south side, just duplicate it and put in a covered shelter, state-of-the-art, and a few things. It will not have the bathroom facilities, because I think when you put in the bathroom facilities, that just doubled the project. But for $75,000, we can put in a really nice, double the shelter area for the park. And it's used frequently for a lot of the Trainer residents, and they like to come in and picnics. We probably had 25, 30.
You'd be open air.
Yeah, open air. So that was one of the projects that we have in play as well. So, and working with Iowa West Foundation with some matching funds, and we've already put that together. So, and as Brian said, and I think he's right. I think that anything that you do with these small communities, and you know my position, I've supported all the small towns from Carson, sitting with Marissa with Oakland, and having all of Underwood with Dennis. They all have needs. They all have things that need to come up, and that the county certainly has been supportive of and wants to be more of support. So, I mean, it's very much appreciated, because it's going to be a never-ending battle. I mean, there's always going to be something that pops up on the horizon. So what I'm bringing to you is the Trainer thing for today.
Never enough money, is there?
No, we're looking at this, and I realize your limitations on funding. This project here, the Heartland Connection Road, and the cooperation that we have with Vision Trainer, as well as the Trails and Park group that we're working with the splash pad. This is Vision Trainer alone is a $20 to $25 million completion. So that's just something that's going to be incrementally going on for years and years and years. And the splash pad, they're a $1 million project. The road itself is probably gonna be 2.5 million, and if the costs keep increasing with contractors, it started out as $1.5 million. I called it my $1 million baby, but that's a thing of the past. So, we know that these are gonna just be ongoing. Any luck?
When you speak of the vision trainer, that is a non-governmental entity, right?
Right, we're dealing with two nonprofits. We're dealing with Vision Trainer as a partnership, and we have several agreements in place right now with not only Vision Trainer with their water that they're currently receiving to the area, but we're also looking at the splash pad and working with agreements with water. Mercer and I were just talking about water. That's being very careful how you structure agreements with entities that need water. So we're doing that right now as we speak and trying to work that out. And there's a trail that's being put up there. That's part of that Trails and Park other group. So there's 3 entities all in, 2 nonprofits and then the governmental, or the city side. We did apply to Destinations Iowa, and we still look for that to be okay. I've gotten some feedback that because it was Governor Reynolds' pet projects, and some of them that have gone through a Destination Iowa, they're fairly large in scope. And as you can tell, the first one that was put out was the Field of Dreams. Well, Trainer's Park program is not the Field of Dreams. So they came back to me saying that maybe it was not wide enough regional. I mean, they like these regional approaches that go out, and I think Pot County was just somewhere in Pot County was just a recent recipient of the last round. Which, it makes sense, and I understand. I don't necessarily always agree, but that's the way funding is.
The council has got that, right?
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah. So, you said the shelter is one, right?
That's one.
Was Alan's up there?
Oh, Alan's up front.
Did you say it was 75,000?
Yeah, I mean, that's in fact, I'm working with it's a recreation company out of Des Moines and putting some of the figures on that. So, and of course, Iowa West Foundation in their granting process had a percentage, and if we spend, it's a $75,000 project. If it comes to that dollar amount, they will go up to $9,000. So that was their choice a couple years ago, and we certainly are appreciative of any dollars.
Okay, so I think we can make this work. I think the way to do this would be, we need to email that presentation to
I'm trying to send the files to.
someone that has an iPad, and then we can screen mirror it. That should still work. I don't know why the hell it doesn't.
Yeah, and if not, for certain, that's why I give you a physical copy. I'm used to that things happen. If there's any questions on that, I've memorized that particular handout you have. So if you look on the second pages of that, and if it comes up, great. But if the second pages were kind of an update to you to show you where that subdivision, that Heartland subdivision, was a TIF project for the city of Trainer that was platted in the spring of 2020. And there were 29 lots that were put up there to be a 5 to 10 year project. And the lots are now filled with the exception of 3. And you'll see the GIS went out, the Pot County GIS went out in the spring of, I think, 2022 and updated the aerial, which I was very appreciative of because I was using old 2018 aerial and it wasn't showing me what I wanted to see. So I think this one has what I wanted to see and want to show you how that's grown and how that's in place.
What's the population there now?
It went from 919 in 2010. 2020, it was right at 980, and right now, the last one we just took a look at in-house in the building that we have, right around 1,062, 63. Tomorrow it might be 50, and then it might go up to 70, depending in and outs.
Yeah. Did you email me that?
So there's a video inside it, so it's too large to email. So I'm converting it to PDF to try to send it now.
So did you say there's only 3 lots left out there?
There's only 3 lots left, and actually 2 of them are being built. One of them is a...
Susan, I'm sorry, Michael, are you leaving, Susan?
Yes.
Okay, I'll call you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the one of them, there are 3 lots and one of them may not be a buildable. I'm hoping so. I tried to talk the particular person that owned that, a contractor, Yoder, to just giving it, or working with the city to make it into a green space area. But he's convinced he's still gonna get a house on it and he's still gonna turn $1 on it, which is fine. I think that's great. So it's a little odd shaped lot.
Mike, are there any other smaller projects that you're working
Alan?
on? I mean, let's just say hypothetically, we were to say, you know what, we have possibly 100,000 per trainer. You only want 75, so I'll give the other 25 to Marissa?
I know, we can find projects. No
I don't
problem.
dare answer that one.
No
Alan,
problem.
thank you very much.
No problem.
One of the things, Tim, to keep in mind, and when we talk about this project is, and Alan and I just spoke about this morning, is that you asked about cost and Dennis and stuff like that. Several of the things within the scope of this Heartland Connection Road have been pieced out. So when you say, is there something in that range, which I know is the smaller amount, yeah, I mean, the electrical service is still being put down there. There's a contract, we're working with Mid-American for about 60 to 65,000. We're working with the splash pad people to put in about 60 to 65,000 of just one piece of that infrastructure to make sure that the pad can be up and going in the spring. So it's broken out in little small parts. The entrance, now you've got
You can't do full screen for some reason, it's not.
yeah, and that's.
You can do this if you can do it.
This is this is a new subdivision basically that has come to fruition. The 29 lots being on this side right here, all within, that was just empty ground in 2020. So that's all now in place. The connection to the Heartland Road would be right here and go around. And if you got the next picture slide, you can kind of see right here.
Sorry,
I see what you're doing.
It's kind of a, yeah.
But you can envision, it's a little more blurry, but this is that road where she ends in the subdivision, and the highway's down here. Alan's house, I'll pick on Alan, is right here. So this is the highway, Highway 92 that runs through, and this is the makeshift road that Alan was gracious enough to say, you can use my entrance to allow the kids to play, and they've already started using it quite well this last year. Little small parking lot. This is 1/4 of that baseball field that was dedicated last year. The road we're talking about is this safety valve that would come right down this way. And would actually be, if you want to go to the next picture, now that you get kind of an idea of that road, this is what the plans are and how they look at it. And this is fairly current within the last month and a half. We've got about, and you're going to see names of engineers, we've got about 4 or 5 engineers you asked. Unfortunately, none of them are McClure, but that's okay. They're a good company. They did good. HGM, MER, we've had JEO is the one I currently work with a lot. HGM put in, this is the road. The highway is right here. There's a section of this road that comes right off the highway and comes out straight. This piece alone is right around $250,000. And I know that's the first probably priority on this project is to get from the highway to get this section to the top of the hill. And that's where, and then this will wind around, and all of the engineering that we're doing right now is the wastewater, water, and some of the other items we need, including the electricity, to flow into this area. This, you can see the darker green here are the 2 that are in place. They're already operational and working. So it's just a labor of love, a lot of money, and I have no doubt that it's going to come to be. The other part that I want to show real quickly is this part is the next supposed, if we get that far, subdivision for Trainer. They've platted it somewhat for 19 homes. I think the council, Alan and I and several of the other councilmen agree that it may not be that many. We don't like to see as small lots. They might be a little bit larger, so maybe instead of 19, maybe 13, 14.
Wouldn't that help LMI?
This is kind of a targeted area for some of the LMI, and especially in the TIF dollars. I just talked with Jason James. He's still interested in helping with this project, but he called me on another subject because we're doing the TIF and the evaluations, as we know this is all coming around. And we know that the valuation for Trainer increased about 10.5 million to 11 million with those homes. That's the number he's getting, and I think he's pretty accurate. Average cost of those homes was 337,000 was by his numbers.
For the ones that are just built?
The ones that were just built.
What's your projection for those?
These are several different, if it's single, I mean, projections are gonna be $350,000 to $400,000 single family residence. But if they do go the LMI, and that's, I don't know, LMI is such a, anyway, if we do go the way we want, some upper scale, there might be some townhomes and try to do some estimates on what that might look. And you can continue right here. This just shows you that this is that Highway 92, and we're already working with Mid-American to do some pole relocation as well as some electrical. You can go ahead and go past this one if you want. This is that entrance to that road. This is the existing road, and this is Alan's house, if you can imagine that being about right here. This is Zion Drive is what it's called. The new road will go in right here, street to the edge of the hill. This is the one, and I think you can't see the numbers, but these were early estimates, and this one, the early estimates a year and a half ago were 200,000. I know they're 250, 300,000 now.
So the driveway that's there now, is that kind of the intent that would just go away and their property line would get fixed, or?
And I don't know, we've had some of that
Yes.
discussion, Alan.
Yes.
Yep.
Be too confusing to have two things right next to each
I
other.
mean, do you have, I guess I'm just asking, like, is your parcel still on the other side of that, west of that driveway?
That, where the new street is owned by the Vision Trainer Group.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got
Show
your
him where
driveway
Alan's
now.
house
That's
So
right.
Alan's
grass
house
area-
would be right here, Justin.
Yeah, so you got your driveway.
Yeah.
And then there's a grass area between your driveway
Yeah,
now,
yes.
that's yours, or is that?
It's kind of in between the borders in the middle somewhere. It becomes theirs. Actually, kind of the driveway, in the middle of the driveway is kind of where it becomes theirs.
Okay.
Would all be part of that
You just
group.
turn that into grass or something.
Yeah, it'd be too confusing having two things right next to each other. People be going on the wrong one and all that kind of stuff.
In fact, half of this, this was widened out, half of this, Alan and his neighbors rocked it, and did that, and then Vision Trainer came in and said, well, we needed it a little larger to help, and they said, knock yourself out, so they, rocked the other half, so that it's a wider, to leave two-way traffic. All right.
How big an area does your splash pads take up?
Splash pad area would be right, this is an older view, but if you imagine, even this road's not correct. This is here, the splash pad is gonna be somewhat in here, and these are being rearranged as we speak. This is an older engineered drawing, I just got that update. If you were to go back, the newest one is in the previous slide. Keep going, right here. This is the area, and this is the part that we're working on currently for 2022, 23, and this has that field, which you can see where the splash pad. This is a community building which Vision Trainer has applied and has received preliminary approval. I don't want to ever get anybody in trouble in that, but with the Lakin Foundation to put in a $200,000 community type building concession stand. 200,000 is going to be pretty open, but it's still pretty nice. And I think that's pretty well done.
Michael, we're gonna plan on meeting with all of the towns and compile a list of projects that we think we might be able to help with.
And trust me, I would understand that a lot of towns, I'm supportive of all the rural towns that are there. I just wanted to make sure on this part, when we came in for when I was talking to Mitch, was to kind of update you where we were with the Heartland Connection Road. Some of the future land use and some of the engineering that you've seen once, but they're all been kind of updated. So we'll keep striving forward and, like I said, and support the rest too.
We've taken a lot of time. I just had a couple short things I'd like to say. A lot of the idea for that road is to get traffic around the four-corner intersection of Middle of Trainer. If you go through Trainer, a lot of times in the day, it's pretty difficult to get around that corner. Your L55, 300th Street, the counties, meets Highway 59, or meets Highway 92 right at that intersection in town. We would anticipate that a lot of the traffic from the north would skip downtown and come around there, especially for people taking their kids to school, to the elementaries east of where that would come out at. So it would really be a huge benefit for, like, when kids are walking across the intersection down there, that busy intersection, all that would hopefully get rid of a lot of that congestion from that county and state highway. So that's a lot of the thought that goes into it, plus the development that could occur along it.
All that traffic's gonna race right out of your house.
That's the downside. In some ways, I'd rather stay just exactly how it is with no traffic, but for the big picture for the town, that would be the better way to go.
You'd be surprised how many people have asked that same question, Tim. Said, you realize the traffic's just gonna increase by your house.
Yeah, that was kind of a jab to kind of.
I took it as that.
But as future development would go, would it be easier to develop to that?
Possibly to the northeast.
That's what I'm saying.
Off of that road, so that would open that up too for.
Is that what you're?
Northeast is the first planned area to, obviously it's individual homeowners and that, but there was an individual that just passed away to the north, so I know there's some talk. And then also to the southwest might be some, that would be the Vorthman land.
That's a way different thing
That's
than we're
a whole
talking about, but you're correct in the area.
The northeast above this area, and then for future land development.
But we've taken
Because those houses apparently said there's only 3 lots left. I mean, the demand is pretty well pinned up out there.
Yeah, it's a, and I know you gotta move on, but it's a funny world. The demand is there. The time is odd. I mean, right now, construction, if you talk with the contractors, there'd be no problem building forward, but they're struggling with a few other things, so it's a push and pull thing, so we're watching what goes on.
Your biggest draw is your school.
We believe
it
that.
really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yep, it really does.
The little towns have good schools.
Yep.
Okay, as I said, Michael, when we finish our meeting with all the town, we'll compile that list. I think I'm not gonna speak for the whole board, but our intent is to do as many as we can.
Understandable.
All right, next step.
We're still prioritizing. I just want to make sure that we're clear on that before we go to that. I brought this to your attention, but we're not substituting. We're still prioritizing that wastewater treatment facility and going forward with that, with the McClure recommendation. That's always been, that's a must. I mean, that's our first thing, so. This is our second want. Love.
And we don't have $2 million to help you with the road.
And
Of
I
course,
understand.
of course.
All right, moving right down on my list, we have McClellan. Anybody here from McClellan?
I picked a copy, there's a technology in here.
I thought I'd seen an email where they got it all fixed.
Our budget's set, we'll talk about the cost for that too. Anyways, what I have here is basically kind of 2 requests to help us out with. So as you guys have known, I've been talking about, we are currently building a new maintenance building for the city of McClellan. And with that, the first third of it is we're going to convert into a new city hall. So, in our original budget and proposal, we started this 2 years ago. It was at a different location and a smaller building. Turns out we couldn't get, the dirt work cost was so much that we ended up being able to buy a lot in town cheaper and put a little bit bigger building on. So we did partner with Iowa West on that, and they did give us part of a small grant of $36,000 to help with the completion of that. However, in the 2 years, the cost of that have gone up substantially. So as it stands right now, the building is up, which you see the photos of. However, what we haven't done, or since we weren't planning on putting the city hall in there anyway, was do the inside finish work for the office, the conference room, the bathroom, and that sort of thing. So the request would be to, if you guys could help us finish and then also do the parking lot concrete up front for that, would be the first request. And then the second request is for our Veterans Monument. And if you can see the photos on the second to last page, we opened the end of it open, and all the plywood and everything that was on there is all rotten completely. Our first bid to replace and fix that was $40,000. We did get a new bid yesterday for $10,000. So that's why the bus is on there. 16 years, not that old. So whenever they did it originally, they just used OSB board and wrapped it.
Which one died?
The one that's right here.
So, that's basically the nuts and bolts of it. As you can see between the two projects, you're asking the county to help with about 43% of the projects and put the grand total right at $110,000 for a request.
Did that just start falling apart then?
Yeah, so the corners started to crack. So basically, we were gonna go in, thought we were just gonna replace the corner pieces that were cracking. And then we pulled the corner pieces off. You noticed that all that was just soaking wet and rotten. So we had nothing to go back and put that decorative rock back onto.
Yeah.
So the idea this time is to take down that metal substructure that's in there, not go back with the plywood, but actually block it and then come back with decorative block and actually put a cement cap on the top of it. So this would be a one-time fix and done and doing it the right way.
Was this one of the
Eagle monuments?
Yeah, projects?
Yep, it was. So this is right when you come into town.
Right, that's why, I guess I never noticed it was falling. All right. Huh.
Okay,
that's my
Mitch,
request.
As you're aware, we're gonna speak with all the towns and we'll put that list of projects together and we'll get back to you and let you know if we're gonna help you out.
Sounds good.
And you get no preferential treatment.
I understand that. Probably opposite effect if anything.
Next up, we have, is it Brant, or are you gonna let Marissa speak?
No, she doesn't want to, so I guess I'll let her. She can be the numbers person, because she's got all that stuff in her head.
Okay.
Some of the things we've got going on, right now, we're in the middle of a irrigation project at the golf course in town, that's city-owned. We have a family that has given a sizable donation to go towards that project itself, and we're also working with Oakland Foods to bring their treated water, discharge water that goes to the river, over to the pond at the golf course to be used for irrigation purposes. So it won't be going back into the river, we'll be recycling that water and putting it back on the golf course. We just met with engineers the other day. We're looking maybe $500,000 on that project to run that across. But it's a green project. We're hoping we can get some grant funding and stuff like that for it. So another thing we're looking into doing is putting an amphitheater down in Chautauqua Park by the Freedom Rock. We've been talking about this for years. We've had, how much was that? A few years ago. It's
Around $100,000.
around $100,000 for the amphitheater project. That was a couple years ago, so I'm sure it's a lot more than that now. But, so we were gonna do that, host outdoor events, things like that, down there. We've got pool repairs. Our pool's got some problems with it that we don't know the depth and scope on yet because we've just had them pop up this year. Pool's a pretty big draw for our community, so we wanna try to do what we can to keep that going. We're in the middle of a $3.5 million sewer lagoon expansion, so we've got that going on. We're also in the process of drilling some new water wells to increase supply capacity. We're gonna be doing some plant upgrades to go along with that and expansion. That's, what are we talking on that? The wells themselves were.
Wells will probably be around $1 million. The plant expansion, depending on what we do, how far we go, probably $3.5 to $5 million.
Oh. looking at.
How many people are in Oakland now?
1527 is our last
yeah.
census.
1527?
We've got a lot of water distribution lines that need to be replaced. We've got some that are 70, 80
Original.
years old and original that need to be replaced. So we've got those going on. General street repairs, those kind of things. We can always use more money for street repairs. And the biggest thing, we are in the process of purchasing 80.5 acres between the golf course and Oakland Foods.
Is that public knowledge?
Yes.
Oh, okay, 'cause it is now.
Yeah, yes, it is public knowledge. It's all done, taken care of for the most part. We plan to close on that middle of November. And so we're projecting, getting something going on that. We'll be coming back to you guys to talk about annexation. Cause we're gonna be doing housing development on it. We're gonna annex that, the golf course, and there's 3 houses up along the road there that we're gonna try to get annexed into the city. So we're planning on selling
You said
acreages.
golf course?
What's that?
You said golf course, did you?
The golf course, part of it is, part of it isn't.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So we're gonna try and get it all in the
So is
city.
the pond part of gonna go into the annexation ground? Is that where the pond is gonna go?
The
or-
pond's on the golf course right now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. There's
Okay.
already a pond there, 1 million gallons. Oakland Foods is gonna pump us 275,000 gallons a day. They discharge close to 1 million gallons a day into the river, so we'll take that water from them, spread it out across the golf course, and reuse it that way instead of just dumping it back in the river.
And then they're gonna dump it in the river over the winter time then, or?
Yep.
Is that water tested?
Mm-hmm.
DNR's all.
Oh, yeah, DNR's all over it,
That was
yeah.
my next
Yep,
question.
Yep. It's basically potable water, they said, for the most part. They said you could drink it and it wouldn't do anything to you because DNR, but I told the engineer, I said, you go first. So, but yeah, that's, it's gonna work out really good for us because, as far as the city goes, we don't have the water capacity to give them what they want to water. Cause we don't have the extra 275,000 to give them a day that they want to use to water, which would be roughly, what they say, 1/4 of an inch across the whole course. So, but it'll work out good for us, we think. So, but yeah, so that, our big thing is, the subdivision. We're looking forward to doing that, getting that going. We're partnering with the Industrial Foundation on that.
How
They're
many
using.
houses you think?
We don't know.
We haven't
for
platted
sure.
it yet.
We haven't got it platted or anything like that, but we're hoping for at least maybe 30 going up through there. Depending on the size of the lots.
80 acres, you said.
Yep. There's some that's not gonna be, there's a wooded creek that runs down through it, so there's some that's not gonna be developable, but, that's what we're developable. Yeah,
You guys have been struggling with land for
yes,
housing.
this has
for a
been a long time coming that we've been trying to do this.
Good.
Lynn knows where I'm talking about, right? Yeah, down through
Yeah.
there. So hopefully it works out good.
Is that water that goes down through Kendall's?
Yep. And what's gonna work out nice on that project, once we own that, we don't have to have the easement rights going across there, and the engineering firm projected $150,000 in costs on that, so it's gonna save
For
us.
easement?
For easement rights,
Oh, cool.
yeah, so it's gonna save us costs on that, on the golf course water project, so. We got some good things going.
Is that piece abut 59 also?
Mhm. Yep. 59, Idlewood, and Hurricane Lane.
Oh.
Yep. So we'll be coming back to you guys to talk about a bunch of stuff in the future, so.
Looks like our little towns are really expanding.
Denny?
Tim, they gave me some ideas that we are in the process. That's why I didn't want to go first. We are in the process of doing a wastewater update. It's in the engineer's hands. It's, they're gonna put the plan to DNR, take maybe a year for that. the budget right on that is basically $4.1 million. We are in the process of raising our rates on the sewer for the city. And so that's one field. There's a committee they're wanting to do some things to the ball fields there. One thing is they want to take the lime off and put in the,
Red ball, yeah.
what's
The
it?
red ball.
Red ball.
Yeah.
And to do 2 fields, it runs about $50,000. And then if we, there's one field, the softball field, if you turn it around, estimates are on that are probably 100 to 125,000. And the reason you turn it around, because the home plate's the far away from the concession stand, the people have to walk farther and stuff like that. Talking about subdivisions, Allen Edgard, they finished up on their phase 4 this year out there. He's already got 1 townhouse sold both sides and 1 lot. Then he has 2 more phases to go after that. And there's a total of about 43 houses in these phases. And I don't know how this is gonna work with the housing costs going up and the rates and stuff. You would think maybe the people just hold off for a while. So, but those are some updates that I have. And I thank you for your time and your efforts, and I'm sorry that I didn't come more prepared.
How big is your population now?
I'm saying about 980,
You've grown
somewhere in there.
Okay.